Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Augusto Sakai just took place in the main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas 28. Rozenstruik versus Sakai, and the fight has just finished. The main event is over. At the very end of the first round, Jairzinho Rozenstruik does it again and beats the buzzer like he did against Alistair Overeem against Augusto Sakai. 1 second left in the first round. Jairzinho lands a clean overhand right on Augusto Sakai, who's backing up against the cage because he's the much bigger man, of course. Backing himself up against the cage, fighting on the outside the entire time as the much bigger man with a weight and height advantage over his opponent. Just sticking on the outside against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Eventually circled himself into a perfect position to get KO'd, and that's when Rozenstruik KO'd him. Smothered him with a couple of quick shots, then landed the right hand over the top. Sakai goes down. It was a little bit of a weird stoppage when I first watched it because I thought the round was over. And I was like, oh, the round's over. Next round. And I was like, oh, wait. Rozenstruik's celebrating. And Herb Dean is not telling him not to. The fight must be over. Then I sort of went into a bit of shock because when you watch the finish, it's a bit weird. You know what I'm saying? It's not a bad stoppage. It's just an awkward stoppage because with a second left in the round, usually in my opinion, he's probably not even going to get hit in that last second. You know what I mean? So, like, give him a second to maybe get back. You know, we'll see what happens. He looked like he was sort of coming back to at the end of the fight. But either way, he did look like he went out for a second against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. But then Rozenstruik hit him with another punch and he sort of, like, popped his head up and started sort of shifting into half guard position, it looked like, grabbing onto the leg of Jairzinho Rozenstruik. But Herb Dean sees the guy's head go back, and he knows if he doesn't step in there and Rozenstruik rains down an extra couple of shots, that Dan Hardy's going to jump over the cage and attack him in the middle of the fight. So, all good, whatever. I just thought maybe, just maybe, I think the referees need to, like, change the way they approach stoppages when they know there's only a couple of seconds left. Especially in top 10 fights, especially in main events. Either way, Jairzinho Rozenstruik looked good, man. He looked a little bit more active. In all honesty, no, he didn't. He got the KO, but before that, my entire chat was just going, oh my god, snooze fest again. Jairzinho Rozenstruik doing it again. He's just sort of standing there, throwing a little bit of nothing shots on Augusto Sakai. Augusto Sakai threw a couple of front kicks to the body and stuff like that, a couple of leg kicks. Rozenstruik landed a couple of inside leg kicks. I think he landed a big overhand at one point in the fight, but the output on Rozenstruik is just, unless he knows he's got you, he will not throw. Like, he just sort of sits there. He landed a couple of shots to the body, but that was like the outside body of Augusto Sakai, so I don't even know how much he felt those shots with that massive empty ball bag on his stomach. But either way, Augusto Sakai, I picked him. He lost. Rozenstruik caught him with a good punch, and in all honesty, the way Augusto Sakai reacted after the fight was stopped, he probably would have just been sort of just nodding along in his corner saying, yeah, no, and then just got KO'd in the second round anyway. So either way, Rozenstruik lands the KO blow. I just assumed, and it's my bad that I did this, I really assumed that Augusto Sakai, who'd been competing in the sport of MMA for a decade now, I believe, like he's been around for a very long time, had a bunch of experience, 15-3 to 1. He started his MMA career back in 2011, so starting his pro career a decade ago in MMA and training long before that as well. He's not a young guy himself, 30 years of age. I'm assuming he's probably been training MMA since he was allowed to, at probably around 16 or something like that. So a very long time in the sport of MMA. He's the bigger man. He's great in the clinch. Every single time he uses the clinch in his fights, he seems to do very well. He even beat Marcin Tybura in the clinch by TKO in their fight with a single collar, and just by being the bigger man on a grinder like Marcin Tybura, he was able to pressure him against the cage and smash him up in the clinch. But Augusto Sakai, with his decade-long career and coaches that know a lot about MMA and aren't dumb people by any means, they decided to circle around the outside into the overhand and strike shot for shot with Rozenstruik. That was their game plan. Now, I did assume at one point in the fight that maybe the game plan of Augusto Sakai was to just escape the first round and then start working his grappling and clinch game in the second round, but it didn't even look like that. He didn't even try a shoot for a takedown. He didn't even try and clinch up against the cage. There was a moment where he had Rozenstruik against the cage a little bit, and they were sort of close in some entanglements, but Rozenstruik or Sakai would just push away and just get away from Rozenstruik back into boxing range. I just think it was a stupid fight for Sakai, and he's pretty dumb. And he'll probably still beat every other heavyweight other than Rozenstruik and people above him. So, big win for Rozenstruik, back in the mix. I'm telling you this, if Rozenstruik lost this one, he would get torn apart by fans. So it's kind of good that he didn't, because people were a little bit indifferent about Augusto Sakai. If Rozenstruik lost, and if he lost by just not doing anything, he might just straight up get cut just from Dana White hating him as a person, because they gave him the opportunity in a main event, and if he did just sit there and do nothing the whole time, they wouldn't be too happy about that. So he saved his career 100%. If he loses this one, especially by TKO, it starts looking pretty bad for the future of Jairzinho Rozenstruik, but he's now back on a win. He's been a little bit hit and miss recently. He had a bit of a win streak to start his career. Lost to Ngannou badly. Beat JDS. Lost to Cyril Gane quite humiliatingly, which now makes Cyril Gane look pretty good, I guess. Now beat Augusto Sakai in the first round with a second left to go. Yeah, he looked like Rozenstruik. He did what Rozenstruik does. Maybe a couple of extra jabs to the body, which was nice to see from Rozenstruik. We don't really see too many of them. I just thought that Augusto Sakai would, like, grapple. You know, he's been in the game for a decade, and he's trained for 8 weeks for this, and he's got a team that's literally, their job is to decide how he wins a fight against someone, and his best move is his grappling and clinch, and he's fighting a much smaller opponent who's morbidly obese like him, and he's much bigger than him, and he's much taller than him, and he's got way more weight on him than him, and he's got much better grappling than him, and he's got much better clinch work than him. So they decided to stand in boxing range and just scoot around until they got KO'd. Great job by Augusto Sakai. Shimmy him down the rankings, and I think that stupidity is a punishment for, like, you get now Tom Aspinall. I don't give a fuck. You get someone on the rise. You get like a Sergey Pavlovich or something like that. You don't get a loser, like someone coming off a loss. Like if Ben Rothwell loses his next fight, they don't do Augusto Sakai, Ben Rothwell coming off a loss. Let's just do Augusto Sakai versus some up-and-comer that at the time has got a good win, like a Sergey Pavlovich, if he's ever going to come back to the heavyweight division. Or maybe if Tom Aspinall beats like a Blagor Ivanov, they could do him versus Augusto Sakai. We'll see how it goes down. But for Jairzinho Rozenstruik, good stuff in the heavyweight division, man. Really, really good stuff in the heavyweight division right now. He's probably going to jump above. If Volkov loses to Gane, I can see Rozenstruik taking number 5 from this. He called out Stipe Miocic. Don't see that fight happening whatsoever. I can see Stipe Miocic taking on a Curtis Blades or something like that, and then Jairzinho Rozenstruik, I believe, getting the winner of Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Chris Daukaus. Now time for Logan Paul versus Mayweather. I'm joking. No one gives a fuck about that fight. But, good fight, man. Rozenstruik did good. He looked good. He looked technical. It wasn't an amazing output in the fight as usual. I thought he said he was going to walk down Sakai, which he kind of did, I guess, because Sakai was the guy on the outside. I just picked Augusto Sakai to have the correct amount of chromosomes. And unfortunately, that's something I can't check. So I think as I move forward with my predictions in my career, I'm going to have to just start getting medical records from people. Like, hey, what did he have as a kid, doc? Tell me what he had. Did he have ADHD? No, what about some autism? A little bit of autism? Okay, I'm going to bring him down in my percentages of trusting him for a pick. And, hey, he didn't by any chance, like, have a fucking secret brain seizure at the age of 12, did he? And, right, I'm going to maybe not pick him for a fight. So it's just sometimes I feel like if I got into the interview game of MMA, I think I'd just ask questions to help my predictions. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm just interviewing Augusto Sakai before this fight, and I actually have a chance to interview him in MMA, and I'm at the event, I'm just going to sit there and, hey, Augusto Sakai, 6 times 6. And then just see how long he takes to respond to it. And I'll be like, I'm not picking him because he's fucking thick as shit. And he leans his head back in boxing range non-stop with Rozenstruik. But whatever. All good. Good win from Rozenstruik. First round KO. Thank fucking God. Because if that went 5 rounds, like the Cyril Gane fight, I would blow my fucking brains out. 100%. That would have been horrible to sit through. Either way, great win from Rozenstruik. It's just he's one of those guys where I don't see him beating Ngannou. I don't see him beating a Curtis Blades, a Stipe Miocic. Like, he has a chance with the punching, but I just think those guys would just shoot on him, other than Ngannou, of course. Ngannou would just fucking autistically swing forwards and take all of his punches and just give a couple of them back. But I don't see him beating Cyril Gane in a rematch. I think his time to beat Cyril Gane was the time that he took him on, because now Cyril Gane, who is a young guy in the sport with little to no experience, is going to get that extra experience and learn and get better and evolve as a fighter. Maybe he could beat an Alexander... I don't know if he'd beat Alexander Volkov. Volkov's a little bit too tall. Maybe. But we'll see what they do. I think he could beat the winner of Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Chris Daukaus, and just put it as another main event, I guess. Rozenstruik, I think Daukaus is probably going to beat Shamil Abdurakhimov. Let's do Rozenstruik, Daukaus. If Daukaus wins, the winner of that one can maybe get the loser of Ngannou, Derek Lewis, or something like that. And that's where they can get their jump into the division. But, you know, heavyweight's a bit of a shit show right now. But Chris Daukaus versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik, if Daukaus gets past Abdurakhimov, will be a great fight. And I think Rozenstruik can win that one, because Daukaus would just be swinging in the boxing exchanges. And Rozenstruik has pretty fucking amazing power, in all honesty, if you don't grapple with him. So, good stuff, man. Augusto Sakai put out in the first. What a stupid cunt. There goes my parlay money. God, the card. I'm glad it ended in some kind of KO, because the card itself this weekend was just... like, it was just not a good card. Like, don't get me wrong, it was okay. There were some great fights, and I guess I'll break down the card in a second, the full card breakdown, but... man, like, Roman Dolidze, I think, killed the whole card. Even if the card was decently okay to begin with, Roman Dolidze killed the entire fucking card. Regardless, it could have been the best card in the world. It could have been like Sandhagen Moraes, that kind of card. But still, if Roman Dolidze was on that card, he would have killed the entire thing dead. I hate Roman Dolidze. I just want to chuck that into this reaction video as well, because... why fucking not? I know some people said Tybura versus Rozenstruik. I actually don't mind that matchup either. Tybura is now going to be ranked where? Shit, probably number 7. Yeah. No, actually, no, number 8. He lost to Shamil. So yeah, number 8, Tybura. Number 5, Jairzinho. We'll see what they do. I don't mind. Whatever they want to do at heavyweight, just do it. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Good job, Biggie boy. You would have got destroyed by everyone if you lost. Every single MMA fan would have just laughed at you. So, especially if you lost the way you did against Gane. Either way, click that button up there. Pseudo Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Sakai's Down syndrome.